really grateful to each and every one of you for sharing time with us. I have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to go through it relatively quickly because I'm eager to get to your questions. That is always the most meaningful part of our town hall meetings. And just so you know, you should have gotten a little ticket. Did everybody get a little ticket as you came in? We put the other half of that little ticket into a bowl, and we randomly pick numbers so that if folks want to ask questions, that's how to do it. We've tried it a number of different ways. We've had people line up at past town hall meetings, but folks have thought that wasn't fair. We've done a number of different ways. We think this is the fairest way to ensure that it is completely random. If you have a question that we did not answer, please let us know. We want to get back to you. We want to circle back to you. The wonderful thing about town hall meetings is that, you know, we get lots and lots of people together. The challenge is not everyone gets their question answered. We have other opportunities for you to engage with us if you want a smaller setting. We do mobile office hours, sometimes twice a month. And those mobile office hours, usually we have like 30 people, 40 people who show up. And we have a special guest, usually from the federal government, so a rep from Social Security, a rep from passports, a rep from USCIS, VA, etc. After that presentation from the representative from whatever federal agency we're hosting, I then engage and do Q&A. So if you'd like a smaller setting, please keep your eyes open for our mobile office hours. We also do, I do many town hall meetings with employers in the community who are willing to host us and allow their workforce to engage. We just had a really wonderful one with El Paso Hospice. We've had engagements with El Paso Electric, with credit unions, you name it. So if you're interested in that, if you are an employer, or if you work for someone, please suggest that to your employer. It is our way of trying to get to you where you are, so that you don't always have to come out to a town hall meeting, park on a Saturday, etc. But I'm so grateful that you have. Okay, let me get to our presentation on the state of the nation. My friends, we are living through a really, really challenging time. And part of why this is such a challenging time in our country is because the current administration and the current congressional majority, we know my GOP colleagues control the House, they control the Senate, they control the White House. The American voter turned over the keys to everything to the Republican Party in the November election. The focus for the White House and for my colleagues has been cuts, 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 cuts. Cuts to programs that make a difference in people's lives. Cuts to programs that help create greater affordability. We are still living through some challenging inflation, and it's not under control. It's ticking up little by little by little. You couple that with tariffs that are impacting fruits, vegetables, grocery costs, and as I've heard from CEOs across the country, they're going to have to start passing it on to the consumer. These cuts are going to be even more challenging for hardworking Americans. Higher costs, cuts to programs, not a good combination. So part of what we've been dealing with are cuts to the federal workforce, cuts to the VA workforce, the Social Security workforce, the IRS workforce. So if you had a challenging time before getting someone to answer a question from Social Security or IRS, it is now even more challenging because there are fewer federal employees who are there to help serve each and every one of you. And it makes it more challenging for us as well to get answers to your questions. We have seen actually it's more than $880 billion in cuts from Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, cuts to solar energy projects. There were a bunch of solar energy projects underway in El Paso. those cuts have been made. It was those projects were important in order to try to keep utility costs low. Without that federal funding, we are all very concerned that utility costs really are going to skyrocket as a result. $300 billion from nutrition programs, Title I grant funding, when it comes into effect, that will mean more layoffs for teachers. Title I funding through the Department of Education is specific for economically disadvantaged communities and for special ed programs. So those Title I cuts are going to really hurt El Paso families. We've already lost $500 million for local food banks. There's also been cuts, $2.7 billion in cuts to cancer research and to Alzheimer's research. This is cutting edge research that helps ensure that we are trying to beat cancer, that we are trying to find a cure for Alzheimer's and for other programs. The priorities that my Republican colleagues in the White House have laid out have come in the form of what they call their One Big Beautiful Bill, which passed last month. I voted no. Every single Democratic member of the House and the Senate voted no. The bill essentially cuts health care, cuts nutrition programs, explodes our national debt, gives middle-income folks basically a status quo. It's an extension of the original Trump tax cuts from 2016. So the benefit for middle-class families is marginal. For lower-income families, it's a hit. They will take home less money. But for the wealthiest Americans, it's a boom. It is bigger tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires. We are also dealing with not just the One Big Beautiful Bill, which again was their legislative priority this year, but we are about to go off a cliff at the end of this calendar year with Affordable Care Act subsidies. So even though Texas did not expand health care through the Affordable Care Act, there are components of the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare, that El Pasoans and Texans did qualify for. We instituted subsidies to make that access to healthcare more affordable. We did it right after COVID. Those subsidies are about to expire. And if we don't renew them, which is one of our efforts, we're trying to renew these subsidies. If we don't renew them, then folks' healthcare costs will go up 100%. Now, I do want to pause and tell you the Medicare cuts, which are really deeply troubling to me. Remember, Medicare beneficiaries don't receive a check. It's not like people get cash. If an individual is on Medicare, that means they go to a doctor, or they go to a clinic, or they go to a hospital, and part of their visit is covered by Medicaid. And that means it's the doctor receiving the funding. That means it's the clinic receiving the funding. That means it's the hospital receiving the funding. And Medicaid is already not a very generous program. It's not a financial boom for doctors or for hospitals or for clinics, but it helps them make their financial margin. It helps them provide health care by expanding programs or hiring more doctors or covering more of the prescription costs, for example. So when Medicaid goes away, even if you are not a beneficiary of Medicaid, because it impacts the providers, that means in about a year and a half, 2 years, many of our providers are going to have to make tough decisions. Can they afford to keep as many doctors on staff? Can they afford to keep as many programs going if they're not profitable? So these kind of healthcare cuts impact even people with private health insurance, because it means if our community loses doctors, if clinics shut down, it impacts all of us, whether we are Medicaid beneficiaries or not. So this is one of the big challenges our community will face once those cuts come into play. Those cuts will not happen until after the midterm elections, which is by design, which is how my Republican colleagues crafted the One Big Beautiful Bill. They don't want the electoral consequences of cutting people's health care, so they don't want people to feel it until after the next election. Literally, that is why they did that. And they didn't hide it at all. They have talked about it themselves as a strategic way to approach this. The last bullet on there, in the One Big Beautiful Bill, in addition to all these cuts, in addition to exploding our national debt, in addition to giving big tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires, there is a provision, and this is just one example of the provision. There's a provision to explode the budget of the Department of Homeland Security. And this is in order to execute on President Donald Trump's plans for mass deportation. In that DHS, Department of Homeland Security funding, is $45 billion additional dollars for immigration detention. $45 billion. And much of this money is going to private corporations that are running immigration detention for Donald Trump. So we talk about how budgets are basically a symbol of our values. Government budgets, you look at a government budget and you look at their priorities and you can identify where someone's values are. So that $45 billion, we thought, what could we do as the federal government if we invested that same amount of money that is being invested in immigration detention for mass deportation? What could it pay for? And here's some examples. It could double the federal Pell Grant program, making higher education more accessible to American young people. It could replace every single lead pipe in America and give people access to clean drinking water. It could end veterans' homelessness 4 times over. It could end all American homelessness 2 times over. It could guarantee free school meals for every child in America for 5 years. A budget is a statement of our values. These are my values, but the values of the administration and my colleagues is that private immigration detention program for $45 billion. Now, $1.2 billion, I have $1.2 billion up here because the immigration detention facility built in El Paso on Fort Bliss property, which my team and I, Emily and Benito from my team and I toured on Monday, which is a massive facility, very sophisticated, lots of technology. It's quite a testament to what $1.24 billion can do. It currently holds 1,000 immigrants. It's going to grow to hold 5,000 immigrants. But what could that money do for El Paso? $1.24 billion could fund the 3 largest school districts in El Paso, could fund their entire budget for a year. That's what that money could do. That money, the city of El Paso, Rep. Chavez, it could fund your entire general fund budget for an entire year. Police, fire, parks, animal services, streets, street lights, you name it. I put this up here so that we could have context about the amount of money the administration and congressional Republicans have appropriated toward the mass deportation program. And this is just for detention. This is just for detention. So the One Big Beautiful Bill, how will it impact our community? This chart over here, I know it's hard for some folks to see, but I wanted it up here because I wanted you to see people on the lower end of the U.S. average U.S. annual income, And then those folks on the right are those with the highest annual income, the millionaires and billionaires. You see folks on the low end right here, they lose money with the tax code in the one big beautiful bill. You see millionaires and billionaires on the right end, how the funding and the tax code helps them even more. And this isn't even inclusive of the tax loopholes for the wealthiest Americans. This is just the fundamentals of the tax code, of the extension of the Trump tax cuts. And so El Pasoans making less than $51,000 a year are going to see a net decline in their income. And that's a pretty significant portion of our community. That's about 120,000 El Pasoans who are going to see a net decline in their income. I'm now going to switch to what is one of my priorities as your member of Congress. One of my priorities since entering the House of Representatives in 2019 has been passing comprehensive immigration reform. That's one of a list of my priorities, but I wanted to tell you about the Dignity Act, which is the only bipartisan comprehensive immigration reform bill introduced in the House in a decade. I'm the co-author. I worked in 2022 with my Republican colleague, Maria Salazar from Miami. She and I worked together back in 2022 for 7 months, writing a bill that doesn't give Democrats everything they want on immigration reform. It doesn't give Republicans everything they want on immigration reform. It's a compromise that meets in the middle. It is common sense reform that helps ensure we provide legal pathways to the 12 million people who are in our country, many of whom have been here for more than a decade, who are part of our national economy, who have families in our communities, many of whom have children who are U.S. citizen children, and who just want a shot at being in our country. It gives path to citizenship for dreamers. It addresses the visa backlog. It more than doubles our visa caps and more. It invests in our land ports of entry. It's a really solid bill. When we introduced this bill last Congress 2 years ago, there were 5 of us on each side of the aisle who were original co-sponsors. Maria and I wrote it, but we introduced it with 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats. This year's bill, or this Congress's bill, is a little different, but this year we broadened the support and we introduced it with 11 Republicans and 11 Democrats, which is unheard of on immigration right now. Immigration is the toughest, most toxic issue, and it is an issue I am determined to solve, and I want you to know that you have a congressional representative who's not sitting on her hands on this issue, but is working across the aisle to find solutions. Redistricting. This morning out of the Senate, the Texas Senate passed a redistricting map that should never have happened. And it now goes to Governor Greg Abbott's desk for his signature. I spent some time telling you about the one big beautiful bill and the cuts and the harm that it makes, that it creates for hardworking Americans. Most Americans hate this bill. And you look at polling across the board, it's not just Democrats, it's not just independents. Republicans nationally hate this bill. Donald Trump knows there will be consequences at the ballot box for this bill. It's part of why my Republican colleagues stopped having any town hall meetings, stopped having engagement with large numbers of the public, because the public is holding Republicans accountable. And Donald Trump knows that next year in the midterms, there's a likely chance that we would flip the House, control of the House, not just because of the bill, but because that's kind of the pattern in U.S. politics. Whoever has control of the White House generally sees the House flip control in the midterms. It's just historically how that's happened. But I think there was more of a guarantee that would happen this upcoming year. So Donald Trump calls Greg Abbott and says, get me 5 more Republican seats. That's why the state of Texas entered into redistricting. I want to thank the Commissioner's Court. I want to thank the City Council. I want to thank the Greater El Paso Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank all the veterans groups and all of the El Pasoans who made their voices known. I am so proud of this community for not taking this sitting down and for actually taking action. Our county judge flew to Austin to testify and be our voice in opposition. I'm very grateful to Judge Samaniego and everyone who voiced their opposition. It's not over. Even though the governor is going to sign this, either likely today or at some point this weekend, the next step will be litigation. So we have to see how this plays out in the courts. This is something that could go all the way up to the Supreme Court. We've seen the Supreme Court eliminate voting rights protections for minority communities. Yeah. I am very concerned this might be the last blow, and the Supreme Court might eliminate the Voting Rights Act, which was created as a result of Jim Crow laws in the South that disenfranchised voters of color. So this is a really, this is a moment in American history, my friends, where all of us need to be paying attention. All of us need to be using our voices. All of us need to be focused on preserving the democracy that we were so fortunate to inherit. We have parents, grandparents, forefathers who fought and gave blood, and this country gave treasure to fight for our democracy. We are seeing it challenged right now like no other time in American history. And we cannot sit on our hands and hope someone else uses their voice or someone else uses their power to save it. We all are in this together, and this is a test for each and every one of us about what we will do to save this country from authoritarianism and frankly from fascism. Here's what I'm doing. I am not taking this lightly either. And so I can only talk to you, I can't talk to you about what I'm doing on the political side because this is an official event. So I'm going to tell you what I'm doing on the congressional side of life. I am participating in suing the administration. And I have worked with outside groups. It's very challenging for a member of Congress to sue the federal government because we actually have to go through the Speaker of the House in order to do that, which is unbelievable. So I'm working with outside groups on lawsuits that are pushing back against the mass firings of federal workers, the defunding of research, a lot of what we're seeing the administration do. I am working with those outside groups. I have sued the administration in a very unique lawsuit. I was denied entry to the Montana ICE facility. The law, which I helped write in 2019, does not allow any administration to deny a member of Congress entry into a facility that we, Congress, funds. And the law is very, very clear. And because I was denied entry, I joined with several of my colleagues, and we are suing the Trump administration just on this specific question, forcing them to follow the law on this. But the courts, thank you. I appreciate that. And we are going to push that lawsuit as far as we have to in order to force the administration to follow the law. The courts are a really critical place for us to fight this out. It is part of the strategy to slow down or fight authoritarianism. But there's also civic resistance, which I participate in. We all have to participate, in my view, in civic resistance. That means protests, that means rallies. This is a moment in American history where each and every one of us needs to be a part of civic resistance. I talked to you a little bit about my work in the community. I get out to every and any group that I can. I've been home the entire month of August. This is known as August recess. No recess for us. And so we've been meeting with lots of groups and organizations. If you have a Rotary Club, a neighborhood association, if you have an employer that's willing to host us, we would love to join you, so please invite us. Emily Loya, who spoke earlier, who's right over there, can help us set that up. But as I wrap this presentation up and begin to go to questions, I want to thank you so much for giving me the privilege of working for you every single day. It is the honor of my lifetime to work for the community that I love and the community that took such good care of me as I was growing up and took such good care of my children as they were growing up. So thank you all very, very, very much.
We had a little mic issue this morning, so I'm going to pull 3 numbers at a time, and if you're good, you have the other side of this if you chose to take a ticket this morning. And just listen, I'll just read the last 3 digits. So here's our first one, 465. And if you're 465, raise your hand. If you are able, please come to the side and see Mr. Torres, Mr. Benito here. You'll be able to ask your question. If you cannot move or you have a mobility issue, we will find a way. Just raise your hand too. So first number, 465. Maybe 465 got shy. Next number, 068. 068. Great. And I'll call one more so we have, kind of keep it flowing. And then 021. 021. I'll call another one then. So we have 068. You can come on up, ma'am. And get ready. And then 019. 019. Anybody got that one? Wow, everyone's being shy this morning. Okay. 048. 048.
048, sir?
Okay, great. We'll do that.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Cecilia Oliver. Thank you for coming, and I appreciate that you do these events.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for everything you've done. The Title I funding for the schools, it's expected to impact when? I missed that.
There's an effort by the administration to eliminate the Department of Education.
Yes.
That has not been completed, but that is underway. They've now gotten Supreme Court approval to do it. And so we know it's on the chopping block. A small group of us met with the Secretary of the Department of Education and asked her explicitly, we want a timeline, we want the public to be informed. We don't want you to do this. We told stories of how it would impact our community, the children it would impact, the teachers it would impact. She did not commit to not doing it, and shortly after that, and this is Linda McMahon, she began the process of unraveling the Department of Education. We don't have a timeline. The administration has not been transparent with us about the timing of all of this. As soon as we have information, we are going to let superintendents know, we will let school board members know, we will let the public know. If you have not yet signed up for our newsletter, please sign up. We send out information via our e-newsletter to keep the public informed. So stay tuned. Thank you. Thank you.
If you want to sign up for the newsletter, the staff is back there that can assist you.
All right. Excellent. Good morning.
Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Mi nombre es Marcelino Delgado, yo vivo en la comunidad de Westway. La vez anterior que fue usted a Canutillo, tuve una pequeña conversación con usted. Y yo creo que no nomás yo, varias personas deben de estar de acuerdo en que son muchos los abusos que hay por parte del presidente. Me parece ilógico que no haya más representación legal para muchas personas. Nos está haciendo daño en muchos aspectos, económicamente, mentalmente. Entonces todo eso, yo digo que hay que buscar la forma de pararlo de esos abusos, porque son muchos abusos, son muchos derechos humanos que se están violando. Entonces, pues nuevamente pedirle por favor que pues, haga todo lo posible por ayudarnos a buscar unas mejores formas de que no se abuse tanto, o buscar la forma, si es posible para mí, en lo personal, si se puede destituir tanto, porque para mí, para muchas personas, no está haciendo lo correcto.
Estoy de acuerdo. And I'll translate this y sí estamos haciendo, nosotros en mi partido estamos haciendo todo posible. Necesitamos el apoyo de 3 republicanos en la Cámara de Representantes y 3 republicanos en el Senado para poder parar todo lo que está pasando. Y por eso muchos de mis colegas no quieren tener estas conversaciones, porque el público quiere guardar nuestra democracia y guardar los programas que son tan importantes para la comunidad. Y porque mis colegas no están apoyando a la gente, están apoyando a esta persona, la persona en la Casa Blanca. Es muy importante educar a la comunidad para que todos sepan lo que está pasando y para que participen en no solamente juntas como esta, pero en las elecciones que tenemos, y no solamente a nivel federal, pero cada elección. Hay mucha gente, especialmente en nuestra comunidad, que no participa en las elecciones, y es parte de nuestro cargo, cada uno de nosotros, asegurar que cada persona sepa lo que está pasando para que usen su voz y participen. Pero aquí estamos para darle ayuda cuando lo necesite, pero también para luchar contra lo que está pasando a nivel federal. Gracias. He is very, very concerned about what is happening at the federal level, both with the economy and the impact on individual people, the impact even to people's mental health. And what I said to him in response, we just need 3 Republicans in the House to side with us to stop this. If we had had 3 Republicans in the House, they couldn't have passed the one big beautiful bill. 3 Republicans who would listen to their constituents. And frankly, it's Republican districts that are going to really suffer in rural communities where there's 1 hospital or 1 clinic or few doctors. And we were hoping we could convince them to stand with their constituents, but we couldn't. And in the Senate, just 3 Republicans also. I think you probably saw Senator Josh Hawley saying, we can't cut Medicaid, we can't cut Medicaid. Votes for the one big beautiful bill, then files a bill to undo the Medicaid cuts when he could have just voted no. And so these people, instead of standing with their constituents, are protecting one person, the one person in the White House. And so we've got to educate the community, and we've got to make sure our friends and our neighbors know what's going on, is part of what I told them. And we've got to encourage people to vote. Too many people sit these elections out, and that's part of the challenge. Gracias, señor. Okay, Emily, next couple numbers.
Okay, so we've got 058, 058, 036, 036, 040, 040.
Okay.
Oh, that's okay.
8. And 018, if anybody was 018.
018?
Perfect.
Take her first.
Good morning.
Of the Big Beautiful Bill, if there were 2 things that you could say that you support or encourage, what would those 2 topics be?
Yeah, there are actually a couple of good provisions in the One Big Beautiful Bill that are unfortunately overshadowed by all the bad. One is the no tax on tips. I like the idea of it, but please know that the tax breaks for billionaires are permanent. The no tax on tips, temporary. So they will expire before Donald Trump even leaves office, if he leaves office. Oh no, believe me, we're gonna be sure he leaves office. That was a joke, sorry. But there's some challenges with the no taxes on tips. It doesn't cover back of the house. Some of the people who, the people who are cleaning the floors, cleaning the bathrooms, doing the cooking. It is so inequitable. It's a good start, but frankly, we just need a rewrite of the whole tax code, and we need to help people. We need to fix what is a very rigged economy. Does this chip it away at that for a little bit? It does for a little bit, but for a temporary period of time. The other one is, and the president says there's no tax on Social Security. No, that's not true. But there's also temporary, a tax deduction for people over the age of, I think it's 60. That also is temporary. But it will help, I would say, take advantage of any of the provisions that will help you, but just know those that the very few provisions, those are the 2 that help people who are struggling the most. They are limited and they are temporary. Thank you, ma'am. And then, yes, ma'am, good morning. And Benito's on his way over.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Dr. Patricia Morales. We know each other
Yes, good to
decades.
see you.
It's nice to see you. I'm come representing and supporting a group of about 39 people who have become victims of a scam done by title companies in the El Paso County, where unlawful foreclosures, according to Judge Patrick Garcia, criminal deceptive behavior on the part of Sierra Title owners John King and David Mente and their offices. They were convicted this summer in McAllen by the FBI for the same actions. They scam people out of their down payments, say that they were courtesy closings, that they don't have documents. Well, they convicted the escrow agent and manager of that Sierra Title in McAllen. She's serving now 5 years, and she's giving up John King and David Mente and all of them to the FBI. What we need help with, and we're all here to ask for your help, and there should be about 10 people that didn't come in, they're really showing up, to ask for your help with many of the federal agencies that these people have communicated. I have here the widow of a bronze, 3-time Bronze Star recipient, who this Sierra Title officers took out VA loans in her name and her husband's, which they did not participate in. Federal funds were absconded and misappropriated by the title company from New Mexico Finance Authority, which is for affordable housing. We need your help. They need your help. If they could set up a meeting with you or with your staff so that they could address all the agencies. And I mean, they've communicated with many. They have 2 detectives in El Paso County and the DA's office that are on this, and they are about to culminate indictments. I believe they're at that stage. But with your push and your assistance, we can get this resolved for these people.
Dr. Monardes, so who's here because with Dr. Monardes on this issue? Okay. I am so sorry that this has happened to you. How horrible. Benito is giving you his business card so that we can get a meeting together. I head back to DC, but my casework team can help. Please know, and this goes for everyone, if you need answers from a federal agency, we can open up a case. It can't be done with a group necessarily, it has to be individuals. If you, and this goes for everyone in the audience, everyone in the community, if you've not gotten answers to something from a federal agency, whether it's VA, Social Security, IRS, you name it, we need you to fill out what's called a privacy release form. You go on my website, which is escobar.house.gov, and you'll see a link, help me with a federal agency. You click on that, you fill it out, and that instantly goes to my team, to a caseworker. We can open up a case. You have to give us a little bit of time. As I mentioned at the beginning, there are now fewer federal employees because of the mass firings, because of the DOGE cuts. So there's fewer people to answer our questions, so you've got to give us a little time. We cannot direct a federal agency about what to do, but we can advocate for answers on your behalf. So you have Benito's card, please reach out. This is true for everyone, and it's the same process for everyone. So please, if you need help, let us know. Mariel Larios, who's in the back, is one of our caseworkers. She can even show you the page and how to do it if you have questions. Okay, thank you. Appreciate you all.
Okay, I have some more numbers. Thank you. Hopefully we'll have a few more hits. Okay, 050, 050, yay! Okay, 001, 001. Okay, keep going. Okay. 462, 462, and we. I just got one more because we've been having low hits. 449. Okay. Oh, and
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay, you want to come right over there? All right, perfect. Good morning.
Good morning, Mrs. Clark. My name is Carlos Salcedo. I am a teacher at Silva Magnet High School, and I'm very concerned as to what the Democratic Party needs to do in order to get this gentleman, and I use the term loosely, out of the White House, because it seems to me that everything that the Democratic Party has tried to do up to this point, including this morning, has failed. And your comment about him staying past the 4 years that you're not going to allow to do, to me, doesn't sound too promising, because he's stacking everything for him, including the Supreme Court. So my question is, who is our Democratic leader that we are going to go ahead and put up in front to try to win against this person so we can defeat him in the elections, if we ever have elections?
And believe me, I feel the same anxiety that you feel, and the same frustration, rage, despondence, all of that. Let me tell you first, as someone who was a part of the first impeachment, I helped impeach him. I served on the House Judiciary Committee, and we went through impeachment number 1. Impeachment number 2 didn't go through my committee, but I obviously voted in favor of impeachment. When it got to the House, we couldn't get the number of Republicans needed to ensure that he was convicted. Had that happened, he could have never served another term again. And Mitch McConnell led the way in saying this is an issue for the criminal courts, it's not an issue for the Senate, which is a lie. It was an issue for us to take up. We are in the minority. The American voter turned over the keys to the House to Republicans, turned over the keys to the Senate to Republicans, turned over the White House to Republicans. In our community, he got 20% more votes than he did last time. So we have an issue here as well, in my view. I can't talk too much about politics because this is an official, or elections rather, this is an official event. But I will tell you, when you ask who is our leader, this is going to sound hokey, but the leaders are in this room. We too often look for one person to save us. Too often, we look for one person to have all the answers. We look for one person to do the work that needs to be done to save the country. We are in a position right now where each one of us has to lead in our own way. Talking to friends and neighbors, making sure we are accessing accurate information and not part of the problem of sharing misinformation or disinformation. Making sure that you are influencing the people around you. You know, in the last election, not to talk partisanship, you know, because there are rules about how I talk about elections, so I'm going to follow those rules. But in the last election, I can tell you, I traveled across the country. I was in Nevada, I was in Arizona, I was in Pennsylvania, I was in Georgia, I was in Wisconsin. I'm talking to voters. I would say 90% of those voters I talk to do not read the newspaper to get their news from social media, from TikTok, from Instagram, from YouTube, from Facebook, and are influenced by others. So what are we each doing to influence the people around us? What are we each doing to share information with the people around us? What are we each doing to ensure that people do not sit out elections? The turnout in El Paso in November was abysmal. And as someone who knocks on doors and goes into neighborhoods, into the, in the hot sun, in the cold weather, in the rain, there's not very many people who do that. And so I am all in on finding a great leader. I want an inspirational great leader. But I also know the burden and the responsibility of saving our democracy falls certainly on me. And I will be tireless and have been tireless in that effort, but it also falls on the shoulders of each and every one of us. Thank you, sir. And I'm happy to answer your questions.
Good morning. My name is Ruby Ramirez. I am a high school teacher here at Geo High School, actually. And I don't know if I have so much as a question, but more of a concern about what it's like being a high school teacher, especially here in this community right now. Not so recently, but a few months ago, we saw a lot in the news about ICE raids, and it was a big worry about, are they going to come onto our campus? And though I trust my administration to keep us safe, to keep our students safe, I worry about that on a daily basis. I have no way of knowing which one of my students are here legally, or even if their parents are, and I don't care if they are or not. My job here is to teach them. But it's very hard to teach them when they are as worried as I am. I worry about if they're going to go visit family in Mexico, are they going to be able to come back? I worry about, why should I worry about if they're doing their homework if they don't even know if they're going to make it tomorrow, if they're going to be picked up tomorrow, if their family's going to be picked up tomorrow. And this is a huge concern, not just for me, but a lot of my colleagues. And I guess, again, not so much of a question, but I just want to throw that out there so that you understand that we as a community, we're scared of this happening to us. And if there's anything that you can do, any influence that you have to help stop this, to help just put an end to this so that we can have one less thing to worry about in education, we would really appreciate it.
Thank you for teaching our kids. Agree, and I will tell you, Border Patrol and ICE used to have a long-standing policy that they would not go into certain areas. for enforcement purposes. Churches, clinics, courthouses, which has been thrown out the window, schools. And actually that policy, just for everyone's information, that policy originated here because in the early 1990s, we had a Border Patrol sector chief sending Border Patrol agents into Bowie High School. Do you all remember that? To essentially make students and teachers and administrators prove that they were in the country legally, that they were following people home, coaches home, personnel home, following students who were walking home. El Paso sued. And it was Bowie High School administrators and an organization that I was an activist with, the Border Rights Coalition. And the agreement, the settlement agreement, was this policy, which Trump repealed as soon as he became president. Let me tell you what I did do. I immediately called the Border Patrol sector chief here, the ICE acting director here. I called local elected officials, mayor, county judge, superintendents, others, and seated at the head of the table were our Department of Homeland Security leaders here in El Paso. And I asked them both, will you be doing this in El Paso? Our local community needs to know. And they need to know, what should they be prepared for? Should they be scared for their students? Should they be scared for their patients in the hospital? You know, CEOs, should they be worried that anyone's gonna, that ICE will bust in through their doors, etc. I also said, I need you to give me phone numbers for each one of these superintendents and for the mayor, the county judge, etc. Because if they hear of this happening on school property or on county property or on city property, who do they call? I want you to give me a number, and they did. They gave phone numbers, so we make sure that the superintendents have it. They assured us they were not going to be doing enforcement at the schools. And if any superintendent heard of that, to call them directly. So I did that right away, convened that group. If it ever does happen, and we're having quarterly meetings so that there's accountability here locally, so I'm doing everything I can to continue to convene people so that the local DHS folks are in front of community folks and can answer to what's going on locally. Thank you. Good morning.
Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Voy a hablar en español porque
Muy bien.
se me facilita mejor.
Muy bien.
Bueno, mucho gusto en conocerla, porque yo la conozco en televisión, pero no en persona.
Mucho gusto en conocer.
Igualmente. Bueno, mi comentario es el siguiente. Yo siempre he tenido un concepto de Estados Unidos como un país grandioso. Me gana el sentimiento. Y tengo un concepto muy positivo de la gente de aquí del Paso, porque es una comunidad muy especial. Tiene raíces con México y nosotros tenemos un ambiente muy especial en El Paso. Es una gente diferente a otras partes del país, pero me impresiona mucho lo que está sucediendo porque la política dicta que los representantes son los que nos representan a nosotros. Nosotros con nuestros impuestos pagamos para que ustedes nos sirvan a nosotros, porque no podemos ir a reclamar personalmente, pero ustedes sí pueden entrar donde están todas las personas que toman una decisión. Yo he visto todas las noticias y estoy enterado de todo lo que está sucediendo, y lo que me da miedo a mí es que ahora nos vayan a quitar lo que tenemos, como es nuestra libertad y todos los derechos que conocemos. Tengo miedo de que nos metan en una guerra y todo lo que tenemos lo vamos a perder por las ideas de personas que son ávaros, que quieren más y más, y no les importa la mayoría de la gente. Todos nosotros somos, tenemos para vivir, para todo lo que necesitamos, pero esto que tenemos lo podemos perder y en lugar de ser un país, el número uno del primer mundo, podemos pasar a un país miserable como los que nosotros conocemos. Sin embargo, las costumbres y lo que se está haciendo son exactamente eso. Eso que está sucediendo jamás lo habíamos visto aquí. Que los policías nos atropellaran, que no respetaran nuestros derechos, cuando hemos visto que personas de la ley anden enmascaradas, golpeando y pisoteando a los demás, aun que sean extranjeros y que sean inmigrantes, tienen derechos y no tienen por qué tratárseles así. Así es de que yo pienso que nosotros tenemos un gran corazón, no solamente con los inmigrantes, sino con todos los demás países, porque queremos dominar al mundo de esa forma. Yo pienso que no está bien, y pedirle a usted, congresista Escobar, que no sean políticos de escritorio, que salgan, así como lo está haciendo usted, a poder trabajar y transmitir las ideas, porque ahora nos quieren vender la idea de que ya los demócratas ya pasaron de moda, que son comunistas. Y si yo digo, ser comunista es reconocer que no hay justicia, no es correcto, son ideas, pero sin embargo, las ideas de los demócratas es luchar por la gente, porque su bienestar, y eso no es comunismo, para mí eso no es comunismo. Ser capitalista, ser rico, sí, ellos quieren más y más, y se van a morir y no van a saber qué hacer con ese dinero. Entonces yo pienso que no deben de dejar de luchar, porque pienso yo que deben de ir al campo a trabajar y no nada más estar en la oficina. Y todos los demócratas deben de hacer eso, porque tenemos que prepararnos para las próximas elecciones y que no hagan esos trucos de ahora ganar más representantes, como dijo el gobernador de California. El fuego, con fuego se ataca, y si ellos hacen redistribución, nosotros tenemos que hacer lo mismo en otros estados para nivelar el poder, porque ahora ya ni siquiera las cortes pueden parar las cosas que están pasando. Ahorita un juez que diga algo en contra del presidente, van tras él, le quitan el trabajo e incluso amenazan a su familia. Así es de que yo pienso que algo debemos de hacer, porque las leyes están hechas para podernos nivelar a todos. Es para todos, no nada más para unos cuantos. Nosotros respetamos las leyes, ellos las deben de respetar. Así es de que mi petición es decirle, congresista, que trabaje más en la comunidad, informando y motivando a la gente, porque hay gente que está muy desmotivada y hay gente que ni siquiera está informada, que es lo peor del caso. ¿Sí? Yo hasta ahorita no he visto un aumento en mi cheque, no he visto ningún beneficio, para mí es lo mismo, pero sí quiero que todos los demás tengan beneficios, los que no lo tienen.
Sí,
así
sí,
es que
señor.
esa es mi petición.
Gracias, señor. Is there anyone who did not understand that I should? Okay, so let me summarize. He is feeling significant anxiety about what is happening right now. He wants me and other congressional Democrats to do more. And he talked a little bit about Gavin Newsom, who, talk about a leader, sir. I am loving what Gavin Newsom He's great. He's great. And I feel like he has cracked the social media code on how to demonstrate the insanity and the absurdity of the Donald Trump social media world. But he's a great leader who is fighting fire with fire, and many of us are behind him 1,000%, and are very excited by the leadership that he is bringing. But this gentleman talked about basically, like, we've got to do more. We've got to do more. That the country that he sees today is not the country that he had come to know. A country that leads, a country of integrity, a country that uplifts, and it really has been the opposite, and he's right. ¿A dónde se fue, señor? A ver. Y todo lo que dijo está correcto. Y quiero decirle que yo estoy trabajando duro. Después de esta reunión, tengo otra reunión con una comunidad en una vecindad. Estoy trabajando para hablar con cada persona posible en el tiempo que yo tengo aquí en la comunidad, porque yo trabajo en Washington 70% del tiempo. Los congresistas trabajan allí en el Capitolio, pero cuando estoy aquí, estoy siempre trabajando para educar la comunidad, estar con la comunidad, pero cada uno de nosotros tiene la misma responsabilidad y obligación de educar a las personas en nuestra vida, asegurar que la gente salga a votar, que sepa lo que está pasando, porque hoy en día estamos viviendo en una época muy diferente. La gente ya no lee los periódicos, ya no se informa en los modos tradicionales, van a Facebook o a TikTok o a Instagram o a YouTube para recibir su información, y muchas veces esa información no es correcta y es una manipulación lo que estamos viendo. Entonces yo necesito la ayuda, nuestro país necesita la ayuda. Yo sé que mucha gente no quiere oír eso, pero este es un momento peligroso donde cada uno de nosotros tiene que participar en ser parte de la solución. So I repeated to him much of what I had said about where people are getting their information, social media. I definitely have a greater obligation and responsibility than any of you, for sure. And after this meeting, I'm headed to a neighborhood meeting, not on the congressional side, but on the political side, talking with people about what's at stake. I've been doing that on weekends. Every time I am home, I am working to educate the community, and I'm going back to DC and fighting with everything that I've got, through the courts, on the floor, in committee, in the public. But I shared with him also, we each have to be in this fight together to save our country and save our democracy. Inform the community, make sure people get out to vote, make sure we've got an important election next year. Whoever our next U.S. Senator is going to be on the ballot. Congressional seats on the ballot, municipal seats on the ballot, just a number of seats. We need help getting information out and talking to people, talking to our friends and neighbors and family members. But yes, believe me, I feel the responsibility significantly, and I use as much time as I can in my life to try to fight this every step of the way, and I will continue to. Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Buenos días, señora Verónica. Yo le voy a hablar otras cosas también, pero yo fui a su oficina hace 2 semanas porque voy al centro a oír lo que están diciendo nuestros representantes, ¿verdad? Y no sé nada. Yo tengo años batallando con mi casa, que se inunda cada vez que llueve, porque vivo en Nashville, San Marcial, baja toda el agua desde la iglesia de la Fort Bulletin. Entonces, ese problema lo tengo desde años. Nadie me ayuda, absolutamente nadie. Lo único que resuelvo es poner sacos de arena y mi piso ya no sirve. Pero eso me lo hablo allá y nadie resuelve nada. Fui a su oficina y no nada más por eso, sino que ahorita la situación que yo veo ahorita es que la mayoría de personas aquí, discúlpenme, somos mayores de edad. Tengo 75 años de edad. En la pandemia me quedé sin trabajo. Anduve buscando trabajo, no, ya estoy grande, aunque tenga 50 años de experiencia en mi trabajo, no hay trabajo. En el trabajo que hice, pues retirarme. Ok, me retiro, mi pago no me alcanza para nada. El seguro social no me alcanza para hacer mis pagos. Están aumentando los taxes de las propiedades. Disculpen, esa es mi opinión. Ojalá que algunos me entiendan. Y sobre todo, muchas gracias por su atención.
Sí, usted me está diciendo lo mismo que oigo cuando hablo con gente aquí en la comunidad. Los precios se están subiendo, aumentando, pero el sueldo no. El costo de vivir está subiendo, pero los sueldos no suben.
De nuestra edad,
Sí.
estamos esperando una maestra porque vas y buscas trabajo y no te dan, ni no te dan, ni no te dan. Sepas lo que sepas. Yo estuve siendo manager de a las paredes, estuve en Steinmar, cerraron por la pandemia, en la pandemia ya nadie me dio trabajo y busco. Dije yo, bueno, a retirarme.
So, to translate for folks, so she is in her 70s. She had to retire during COVID because essentially there was no work for her, so she retired. She is struggling with issues related to flooding in her home that happen, every time there's heavy rain and flash flooding. But in addition to that, costs are going up, but her Social Security is then Seguro Social, her Social Security is not increasing. Y yo trabajé en legislación para aumentar lo que estamos pagando con el Seguro Social, pero necesitamos el apoyo de nuestros colegas republicanos y no nos han dado el apoyo. Hay muchas otras cosas que podemos hacer legislativamente en el Congreso y tenemos legislación para ayudarle a la gente, especialmente para reformar Seguro Social para que la gente reciba más. Y podríamos salvar Seguro Social si pasamos legislación, reforma migratoria, con tener 12 millones más personas pagando al sistema podemos resolver todo luego. Pero para todo, thank you, pero para todo,
La water is increased, the electric is increased, the gas is increased, and the payment is not increasing, nothing.
yeah, I agree. I am doing everything I can from the position of the minority in Congress to help bring down costs. What does not help is a president who wanted to cut your services, wanted to cut programs that would help reduce utility costs, who's implementing tariffs that makes the costs go through the roof. He ran, and Republicans ran on a platform of lowering your costs. They've done the opposite. And so we have to hold them accountable. And that happens at the ballot box, but that also happens with using your voice. Please write to your 2 U.S. Senators, John Cornyn and Ted Cruz. And I know I feel the same way. But let me tell you, I hear frequently from folks, they don't care. They're not, and they might not. But that doesn't mean we should be silent. That doesn't mean we should not hold them accountable. That does not mean we shouldn't be calling them and telling them, stop these tariffs. They're making my grocery prices go up. Save Social Security. I need an increase. I reinstate the subsidies to help lower my utility costs. These are all things we did last Congress that they have eliminated in terms of trying to help people. So we need you to use your voice also with the people in the Senate who represent you.
Okay, I have some more numbers. We can get to a few more questions at least. 461, 006, 006, and 466. 466. Okay, we got all three?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
My observation, first of all, I have a comment and then I have a question.
Your office was called, I read it on my neighborhood social media, I guess, website, that our taxes are going up, our property taxes are going up, and what could be done, and what could you do? A lot of people commented and said, she can't do anything, she's in Washington, we have to talk to people here. Okay, well, my comment is, this money that's going to Fort Bliss to maintain the migrant buildings there, that money could go to the schools, and that could reduce our taxes. Because I am very concerned. I live in the Upper Valley, and my taxes are like $13,000 a year, and that's a lot. I'm a widow, and that's a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my observation and my comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, I got my tax bill is like crazy also. The slide on the PowerPoint where I said, what could $45 billion do? What could $1.26 billion do? That was for context. So you would kind of see in your head, this is the equivalent. And this is, I have my own views on how the federal government could and should spend money like this. And I was part of writing a bill 2 Congresses ago called the Build Back Better Act that provided universal pre-K, paid family and medical leave for people who don't get it through work so they wouldn't lose their job when they're sick, expanded healthcare benefits, subsidies to make childcare affordable, which is one of the biggest costs for families. Families are paying 27% of their income on childcare. So those are my values, and that's where I would put money toward to help bring down people's costs. And the list was, here's what this amount of money could pay for. But let me talk to you about local property taxes, which I have nothing to do with. And you're right, like folks who were commenting on that site who said she's got nothing to do with local property taxes, that's absolutely correct. I'm not a member of City Council, Commissioners Court, School Board, EPCC, UMC, which are the local taxing entities. But whenever someone asks me about local property taxes, I like to give a very condensed lesson tutorial. I used to be a teacher, and so I like to use teachable moments. I want you to know why your taxes are structured the way they are. Almost 50% of your local property tax bill is school taxes, right? The other half is a multitude of taxing entities, the city, the county, UMC, EPCC. Why are school taxes, which are a big chunk, why are they the way they are? Let me tell you why. In the taxes, think of a tax system as a 3-legged stool. There's 3 types of taxation. There's property taxes, which we're very familiar with, very regressive. It's not based on how much you can pay. Property taxes are based on the value of the dirt that your house is on, right? The second form of taxation is sales tax. We all pay the same amount, 8.25% every time we buy something. It too is a regressive tax. It's not based on how much you make. If you are very wealthy and you buy, a car, you will pay 8.26%. If you're very poor and you buy a car, you pay 8.26%. So it's also regressive. The third form of taxation is income tax, state income tax, which is progressive, meaning the more you make, the more you pay. The less you make, the less you pay. In many states, public school education is funded through your state income tax. The more you make, the more you pay, and that helps fund public education. And then you write it off on your federal tax bill so that you're not paying it twice. But your local public school system is taken care of. In Texas, we only have 2 forms of taxation: property taxes and sales taxes. We do not have a state income tax to fund public education. The state constitution says the state shall fund a free and fair public education system for every child. This is a state obligation that they shift to local property taxpayers. And so in economically disadvantaged communities like El Paso, like McAllen, like Laredo, you name it, the burden falls disproportionately on us in a way that is profoundly unfair. We have to change this system at the state level, but we live in a state that has been under Republican control for 3 decades. This is why elections matter. So not to say, not to diminish anybody's tax burden. I feel it, my mom feels it, my constituents feel it, but it is so important for the public to understand why the biggest chunk of your tax bill is so big. And it's because we have a state that shirks its responsibility largely on public education. Next question. Let me get to the folks, and we'll leave I'm going to stick around, believe me, and we'll do photos, but I want to stick to the rules, because once we break them, that's it. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Judy Garcia. I live here in Granadillo. I have a question about the El Paso County Democratic Party. What's up with them? They called me before the election, asked me to go walk the block. I went and nobody was there. They called me recently and I was busy and I said, I'm very interested. Here's my email. Can you email the information? Never heard from them. On their website, they have things preparing us for the last November election. What's up with that?
I can't answer this because I have to be very careful not to answer partisan political questions because we're on official time. I have congressional staff here. Stick around and let's talk after, once this is over, if you don't mind. Or if you'll leave me a note with your email and your phone number, because I cannot address that right now.
Give her information in terms of the young man.
Perfect, so if you'll connect with her, that's great, and I have nothing to do with it. Thank you. Okay, yes sir, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
My name is Sam Alba. I'm a public school teacher here at EPISD. As a drama teacher, I work with hundreds of kids. I moved back because a family member got ill, but it's been so cool to be back in the community. Thank you for what you're doing with the Dignity Act, educating us on the inequities of the property tax situation. I have much to learn. I'm trying to get involved locally. I think we need to reclaim our power as the grassroots level because that's where change happens. I'm joining communities like Amanda said. I'm trying to build healthy food systems, create a garden program in my school. I love El Paso. What I want to talk about is, thank you. I've been very distressed because I think it's important for us to, there's a lot of hatred and partisan infighting, and I think that's what the top wants. Because energy, I talk to the kids about energy, imagination, those to me are so powerful. And right now all of our energy is going to fighting each other instead of addressing root causes. And I think it's important to hold power to account. So some of the things that I want to talk about, and I've called the office several times. I've been very distressed about what's happening in Gaza, the connection that AIPAC has occupying our politicians. I think there's root causes. ICE is affecting El Paso. ICE gets a lot of its surveillance technologies from the Israeli Defense Forces. There's this thing called imperial blowback. What we did in Iran in the 70s, squashing this populism. I have my issues with Bernie Sanders, but he had a populist uprising. And Barack Obama, the Democratic Party, crushed it. And then we have fake populists like Trump. They get the base all riled up, and then he hurts their own base. I was in Florida, Broward County. My primary was canceled from the Democratic Party, from a party that's supposed to stand for democracy. So to me, we're fighting all these fires. And if we can't, this is an issue that's been going on for 2 years, 250 journalists killed, thousands of kids maimed. I tell people, I'm at a public school. If there was a shooter in my school, would you kill me and all the kids inside to get to the shooter? And yet I'm so ashamed that my country is sending the bombs to maim those kids. And to me it's bipartisan. One thing that I had talked about was you voted no on, and I'm going to have my issues with Marjorie Taylor Greene, but she had an amendment to stop $500 million of funding that the Amendment 55 to House Resolution 4016, and you voted no. They would have stopped that. I know it was for the dome and everything, but if we don't use our leverage, whether offensive or defensive funding, where's our humanity as a country? If we can't stop a genocide, then how are we going to stop all these other fires? If we don't see the connection between ICE and imperialism abroad and what's happening here, we're going to continue fighting these fires for generations. The infighting, we're going to have all this energy. So what I'm just saying is that we need to look at root causes. We need to look at strategic things, whether abolishing the AUMFs. I mean, Congress used to have to vote for war. Now, we declare everything an emergency. The American people have no say in what billions of dollars, like you talked about, all the billions and how it could flourish communities, our infrastructure, our streets are falling apart. We're the richest country on earth, and all these other countries are bypassing us by leaps and bounds. Okay? And so what I want to know is, can we repeal the AUMS from 2001? Can we get Congress to vote for billions of dollars? Can we ban AIPAC, or at least put them on FARA? I saw an AIPAC tracker that even you received tens of thousands of dollars from AIPAC. What are concrete steps that we can do to show that you're my life? I mean, I'm trying to build power here, but you're my lifelong at the national level. I wish I had power to be able to stop all this killing happening and address the root causes instead of all this energy being wasted. So whether it's, making AIPAC register with FARA, banning the AUMS, using our leverage, what are some concrete steps?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you for being here to hold me accountable. That's what you should do, and I need to be accountable to you. So I had AIPAC support early on in my elective life. I do not receive AIPAC support. It's in years, so just know that. And also, so that you know, I am one of the original co-signers on the Stop the Bombs Act to stop offensive weapons to Israel. And that was written by my colleague Delia Ramirez out of Chicago, Illinois. You're right, I voted against Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment. It was to end the program. My view was, I'm not going to end the program. Do I want to end the funding? Stop the Bombs Act is a way to get us there. I will also tell you, I voted in favor of the supplemental to Israel right after October 7th. That is a vote I regret. And if I could go back in time, I would have voted no on that supplemental. What Israel has been doing, really the Netanyahu government, violating the laws of war, starving children, bombing indiscriminately. That was one of my biggest disappointments of President Joe Biden, who I loved and who was very good to me, the community, and a flawed president. Nobody is perfect. My biggest regret, or for him, I wish he had held Israel's feet to the fire on I wish there had been consequences to the violations of the laws of war. I pushed for them publicly and privately, and they did not do that. And I will support defensive weapons. I would to defend themselves, but I will not support offensive weaponry to Israel so that they can continue the bombing. And I'd like to stop the delivery of all offensive weapons to Israel. So that's where I am on that. I do agree with you. There's so much happening across the country. Local is where you start. You cannot control something that's happening in Florida. You cannot control something that's happening in another state, but you certainly can work in the community to reach out to people. It's what the message that I've been trying to deliver this entire event. We all have the power. We have to use it in our own community where we are seeing flashing red signs as well. So look forward to meeting you and working together. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay, Okay, so we're going to try to keep the questions succinct, but I'm going to do one last round. Okay, and then what happens after that, just so you know, I know there are more questions than we ever have time to answer. There are forms in the back, and if you're wanting one, we have them. We can also pass them around if you want to fill them out, but if you look back that way, we have forms like this, and I can share them so Kaylee can pass them around for anybody that wants. If you didn't get your question answered, and it's more of like you want to hear the Congresswoman's feel in that, you'll get a response. Give us a little bit of time. And also, if you have a casework issue, I say just go straight to Maria, because that's even faster than this. Yes, so what happens next after this round of questions, just so it's smooth at the end, is the Congresswoman will do quick media comments up on the stage, and if you're interested in taking a photo with the Congresswoman, as you can tell, we have a little area for that. You can line up down the ramp. If you have any mobility issues and need to wait, we'll work it out too. And a quick comment and photo opportunity there before we wrap up. But you don't have to stay for that part either, just letting me know how it all runs. And reminder that we do have our city and our county reps. If you live in this area, you're welcome to engage with them too, and thank you for spending your morning with us as well. So last round of question numbers. We have 306, 024, and 470. Did I really pull bad rounds? Okay, we got one. Okay, 306, 470, 024. Okay. Okay. And I'll do one more just in case. 070. 070.
Go ahead and sit down, sir. I'll come to you once you sit down.
Oh, right here? Excellent. So if you... We'll go to you. We'll go to you, sir. Yes. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I'm Linda Karen. Thank you for being here and helping our community. So I believe my main concern here, I believe, for our community is what are we doing to stop ICE from taking our people from the courts? I've seen it. I think there's something and I think we have to act now, because I know personally people that are in the detention centers here in El Paso that have no criminal history. They came and did it correctly. They are educated people from other countries, and I believe we all have to unite. I believe we have to do something. I don't in the courthouse, I don't know what can be done to stop ICE from taking them. And I think there has to be a solution quick, because I do see people still being taken and they're losing everything, and they're having a hard time getting out. So what can we do, or Congressman, or anybody that can help in this situation here in El Paso, because they are suffering, and the families here in El Paso too are feeling it. They're scared. They don't want to go out, or they don't want to go work. And I think that's the main priority right now that we have to focus on. And even my students too, they're U.S. citizens, they're being stopped at the border and being asked. So I have all that going on, plus this additional. So I don't know if they're not respecting the law, ICE. I don't know what can be done. I don't know, tow truck their cars. I don't know. You know.
Yeah. Thank you for teaching our kids and for why this is happening, because it's really important for the American public to understand why this is happening. And there are immigrants with legal protections, immigrants who have followed all the rules, immigrants who are voluntarily reporting for their court cases, who are being detained, arrested, and deported, even though they quote-unquote are doing it the right way. Let me tell you why this is happening. Stephen Miller, who is the worst for Donald Trump, feel the same way about him. He told ICE, I guess he's Kristi Noem's boss, he told Kristi Noem and he told ICE that they needed to detain and apprehend 3,000 people per day. So he created this unbelievable quota for ICE agents to meet. And let me tell you, When ICE is doing a criminal enforcement operation, it takes time. It takes investigative time, it takes time to truly arrest a criminal. And when Donald Trump ran for office, he said he was going to go after the, quote, worst of the worst, and he was going to focus on criminals. You know, most people will not advocate for criminals. I will not. But this is not what he's doing. Because of these quotas, people with legal protections, people with, I have heard of people with legal permanent residency being detained and apprehended. And it's all to meet the quota. And I am so, there's a group of El Pasoans who go and bear witness at the courthouse and film the interactions. I'm so grateful to them for bearing witness and for sharing with the country what is happening in our own community, which is shameful. We should want people to report to court because we should want people to follow the rules. And what I have heard for years is we want people to do it the right way. This is the right way. So I have tried to stop this legislatively. I have even tried to stop it through the appropriations process. Like, no money shall go to fund the Department of Homeland Security if they are doing X. I had one amendment pass out of the committee that DHS, that no fund shall go to DHS for apprehending or detaining a U.S. citizen. That was the only one I could get past. Although honestly, that was a victory because they are pursuing people who look undocumented. So it truly is racial profiling that we're seeing across the country. And it is largely racial profiling of people with brown skin or black skin. So I am trying to look for every legislative avenue possible, appropriations avenues to stop this. My casework team went into the detention center basically to do a ton of casework. We've talked about doing that as often as we can. I am performing as much oversight as I possibly can. I went into the massive Camp East, Montana last week. I'm trying to go again this week so that I can talk to folks in detention to get more of these stories out and public. We are working to try to get lawyers into the facility because right now they're only able to talk to them by phone, but we had a commitment from ICE that they would have a place for legal representation. We need to surge this community with lawyers, frankly. I have advocated with the ACLU that they at least give us one lawyer because we don't have a single ACLU lawyer in El Paso. So I am trying on multiple fronts, and I'm not going to stop. If we, as I said to my Republican colleagues when I tried to amend the DHS appropriations bill, this kind of behavior by ICE will make it so that people will not want to show up to court. That court will be seen as a threat to them. So do we want people to do things the right way or not? And I would hope that they would. So please know, this is a priority for me. I have been pushing on it through various different levels, and will continue to do it through oversight legislation, appropriations, advocating for more lawyers, and sending my caseworkers inside. Thank you.
I have two questions.
Yes, sir.
One, are you going to be like my mother?
What do you mean? That sounds like a loaded question.
I grew up in the 1950s and 60s in Jasper, Alabama. So I got to see Jim Crow in person. And my mother was fierce. She would stand up to any man, any woman, if anybody threatens her kids. So my question is, why do Democrats have to not only go by the letter of the law, but by the spirit of the law when the Republicans will do any dirty trick? my mother, if my mother had been a man, she would have been called a heart charger. But since she wasn't a man, they used the B word to.
So I will tell you, I take my role as your representative very seriously. It is a job that I honor and that I love, and I do my best every single day for our community and to uphold the values of our community. I hope you think of me as fierce. I hope you do, because I am pretty unrelenting, and I have been unrelenting for a long, long time. And that doesn't mean that I am going to be everything or do everything that everyone wants every minute of the day, but I fight really hard. In fact, just look at the comments on my social media, the type of hate that I receive, frankly, the type of threats that my family and I receive, because I stand up for the immigrant community, because I stand up for immigration reform, because I visit detention facilities and have press conferences to bring transparency and accountability, because I work on laws, because I work on appropriations, I go to rallies, I talk to voters. I spend far more time working to fight for this community and our country than I spend with my family. So I hope you think I'm fierce.
We do think you're fierce, and we do appreciate the work that you do. But he stole my thunder, first of all, because I have a similar message that I would like asking you to carry forward, not just to the House, but to the Senate, with the context is that I think the people want you to fight. We don't want to be nice anymore. We don't want things to be done according to the rules. We want to fight fire with fire like Gavin Newsom is doing. And I'd like to encourage the Democratic Party to look within, because there's a lot of people that need to be gone, and I guess we need to get that message out. We need younger people, such as yourself, that have a career and a wisdom.
I wouldn't call myself young, but
You are, let me tell you. Look at Mitch McCollum, you know you're young. But the idea is that I think that despite the fact that you're asking all of us to do our part, we need a unified message. That's why we're asking for a leader. You know, the Trump people had MAGA. We need a unified message. We need guidance. We need a message to put out consistently, repeatedly. And I also think that the Democratic Party should invest some money in some psychiatrists to give you the idea of how to work with the MAGA thinking, because they feel fiercely sure that they're right. They feel that we don't represent them. And they're just people like us. What are we not saying that they need to hear? It needs to be more methodical in my point of view. It needs to be more pointed. And I do think that we need a unified message, and maybe not one leader, maybe 5 leaders, but out there repeating things that we can pick up and run with. Does that make sense?
I appreciate you so much. I will tell you, I do not disagree. I cannot get into the political side.
Right.
So I have to be cautious about how I approach this and what I tell you. I do not disagree. Earlier in the year, when Republicans needed Democrats to keep the government open, on the House side, we were unified. And we said, no, nothing in this bill, in this funding bill, reflects our priorities, which I had up here. Priorities like education, priorities, things to lower the cost of living for people, things that invest in the future, invest in youth, invest in clean drinking water, all the things that create quality of life. None of that was in their bill. We all voted no. We were prepared to see the Republicans shut down the government. We were not going to give them the votes. On the Senate side, it was different. And so, believe me, there was a lot of angry conversation internally. And so I agree with you. I do not disagree with you. My view also at the same time it is, to this gentleman's point. We all can only control what we can control. So as a member of Congress, I'm going to continue to pound the same message. I will tell you, I was one of the members who has now for years supported doing away with the filibuster when we were in the majority. It is a relic of the past. It is a relic of oppression. I have advocated for that on the Senate side. I'm not a senator, but I have advocated for that. So I am with you on pushing the boundaries and the limits, because if we don't, we will not have a country.
That's right.
But at the same time, I cannot control other people, right? None of us can control other people. And also to this gentleman's point, in many ways, there is a focus on dividing people, even people on the same team. And so I spoke at a rally earlier this week where I had colleagues who flew in for the local rally, and one of my colleagues, Jasmine Crockett, said to the group, you all have been sitting here for the longest time. You were sitting here for a while before we began. Did you introduce yourself to the person next to you? Did you take the time to get to know your neighbor so that we can build bridges? Definitely, we gotta hold each other accountable. You gotta keep holding me accountable. But at the same time, also not allow the powerful efforts of division to continue to separate us. But thank you. I do not disagree with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. I think that's it for the town hall here in Canudillo High School. I want to again thank everyone at Canudillo who made today possible. Thank you all for spending your Saturday morning with us. Yes, sir. Sir, I'm gonna visit with you afterwards. I really do want to try to stick to the rules that we've established, and I'm gonna stick around, okay? So we're bringing the town hall to a close, but I'm gonna be around for a while. Please stick around. Thank you all.